The Hyundai Kona has been completely redesigned here for the 2024 model year with an EV first mindset, and the snorty and sporty Kona N model has been completely dropped. Here we have the N-line version, and as always, I'm going to go through this thing from the outside in, talk about what it has been like to live with for the past week, and we'll talk about some of the things that are new here for 2024. Let's go ahead and take a look. Underneath the hood here, if you're in the SE or SEL trim levels, you're going to get a 2-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. If you are in the N-line or the limited trim, this N-line here has a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, and this thing makes 190 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque at its peak. It actually is down a little bit from the last generation. That one made 195 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque, but that's 5 horsepower. You're not really gonna feel that. And if you have the naturally aspirated engine in the SE or SEL, then you're gonna have an intelligent variable transmission. It's a CVT, they call it an IVT, Hyundai calls it an IVT. And if you have the turbocharged engine here, like in this N-line, then instead of the 7-speed dual clutch that we had in the last generation, now it is an 8-speed traditional automatic transmission. And for fuel economy here in the all-wheel drive version that I have here, you're looking at about 26 miles per gallon combined. The trend in automotive is to make the cars bigger and bigger every generation, with a few exceptions, and the Kona here is definitely a lot bigger than it was in the last generation. This one has grown about 6 inches in overall length. This particular N-line is 172.5 inches overall. The other trim levels for the Kona are going to be about 171 inches, and the wheelbase has grown a couple of inches as well, 104.7 on that wheelbase, which is really a good thing, you know, for the ride quality, for the space. But this one does still stay in the subcompact car class here at that 172 inches. You know, the HRV has sort of grown into another class, almost sort of grown out of the subcompact class this year, but this one really does sort of stay in that subcompact area, and it has gotten a lot taller as well. This one is 8.3 inches of ground clearance here in the all-wheel drive version, so that is up a couple of inches, or about 1.5 inches over the last generation. That is pretty significant. You can really see that extra height here just looking at it. But the wheels here, we've got 19s on the N-line and the limited. So if you get the big engine, you get the big wheels. It's an easier way to remember it. These are wrapped in all seasons. The N-line here is going to be sitting on 19s, wrapped in all seasons. The limited is also going to get you 19s. The lower trims are going to be 17s or 18s, but all seasons, no matter what here. You've got a lot of these very deliberate lines through the side here for different emotions. Very kind of cool design going on with the side here. We do have the black mirror caps because this is the N-line. We've got the turn signals, we've got heat, we've got blind spot monitoring in there as well. We do have touch to lock here and touch to unlock on the inside here. That is standard on the N-line and the limited. There are no cameras down in here. You have to get the limited if you want the blind spot cameras, and if you want the 360 cameras as well. And the N-line also gets you the body colored cladding going on around the wheel arches. That one's a little interesting. Usually the sporty version gets you the black cladding, but actually in the Kona, the black cladding is standard, and this one in the sporty version, you get the body colored cladding. Kind of an interesting little touch. And we've got the black roof rails, and we got the little spoiler going on here because this one is the N-line. The front end here is where you're really going to see that EV first mindset, where they designed the EV first and then added the ICE versions versus going the other way around, which has been sort of the industry standard in the past. But this one, you know, you've got this light bar coming across. If you get the EV version, you'll get this pixelated bar coming through here. If you get one of the other trim levels, the N-line is the one that looks the least sort of EV-like in the front end here, even though it still does look like there's not a lot of space of open space here, which is sort of gives you that EV sort of look to it. There's even less open space. It looks even more sort of flat in the other trim levels. The N line gets you some of this venting down here and this fake venting up here. You can definitely see that EV inspiration here going on up front. We got LED combination lights here for the headlights, auto high beams here. Daytime running lights are LEDs as well. And I love this contour up through here. It's not just completely and totally flat going on up here. I like these sort of hard lines coming through here. For the back end here, of course, we've got the spoiler going across for the N-line version. And we've got the little brake light going on and another bar going all the way across. Again, that EV first kind of mindset. This will all be sort of pixelated if you are in the EV version of this. This one does not have the pixels, but I do love this bar going across. We got the LED combination tail lights going on. Got a little bit of added texture here and this diffuser going on. We got the dual exhaust because this is the N-line version. The other ones are just going to be single. It's actually a single exhaust with dual tips. In the other trim levels, it will just be single exhaust with a single tip. And we do have the backup camera back here, as well as the wiper. Love to see a wiper on a hatch or a crossover like this. Now the lift gate here is manual unless you go up into the limited trim. For the first time this year, there is a hands-free option, but you do have to go up into that limited trim level. So this one is just hand actuated here. We got the privacy cover. We got about 6 extra cubic feet over last generation. We're sitting right around 25 cubic feet. Tons of space, and the floor drops down. I love to see when they do this. They give you like a multi-level floor here, so you can set it a little bit lower, get a little bit of extra space. Got a little bit of space on the side as well, some hooks to hook into. And we do have a spare tire underneath. Love to see that there's actually a spare. And we got a 60-40 split on the seats back here. I like this grab handle a lot, actually. A lot of times there's just a little slot somewhere to stick your hand in. I like that they gave you a real grab handle back here. And like I mentioned, there is no function on the key to open that tailgate. There is also no parking help on this key. You do have to get the limited trim to get that, the Scare Your Friends feature, where you can turn it on and actually have the car move forward and back just by pressing the key. Sort of help you into some parking spaces, some tight parking spaces, but not available on this one. You do have to get the limited trim, but you do get the remote start on here, and it's right here on the key. You do not need an app for that. Love to see when they do that. Just lock it up and hold that down, and I will start right up. On the interior here, a lot of big updates as well with the new generation. Again, we have that sort of EV first mindset where, you know, their EVs for Hyundai, the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 6, they have this big open area and the sort of more open center console, and they've done that here. Where this whole area just gives you a lot more space. And then underneath here, this is sort of all connected. Everything just sort of flows into each other a little bit more. And we've, of course, have the big wall-mounted TV screen because that is just a trend in automotive. I cannot stand, at least it is mounted to the wall and it's sort of below the dash line. It's not sticking on top of the dash, but still not my favorite. This is Hyundai's latest system here with the infotainment, where they've got these big icons that are a little bit more friendly to the eye than the last generation. And it even has this Hyundai Pay in here where you can pay for parking through your system, through your infotainment system. And the big thing here, though, is that you can get over-the-air updates now. So in the past, and even now, actually, if you get the nav system on here, you'd lose your wireless Android Auto and your wireless CarPlay. So those are only wired. But with the over-the-air updates, one of the things in the pipeline for 2024 is to update the system to allow for wireless, even when you do have the nav. And this system is quick. It is nice and quick. The old system was pretty good, actually. This one is just a little bit more pleasing to the eye, but it's still pretty quick here. It's got all your sort of general settings in here that you would expect, and it's pretty user friendly as well. You can change your displays, change your buttons, change your gauge cluster, change all kinds of things through here, all your vehicle settings, your lights, your sound settings, all your sort of standard stuff through here. And you can adjust your digital keys, because this will allow you to use digital keys, which basically means your phone is the key and you can share that key with up to 3 people. Now, I mentioned right now it's wired Android Auto, wired Apple CarPlay. You only have USB-Cs, so you might have to get a new cable if you're used to using the rectangular USB-A, and not all USB-Cs are created equal, so you will have to make sure that you get the right one. I have the wrong one in here. That's been a little bit frustrating, but it does have Bluetooth. You got a wireless charger down here as well. Had easy access to your parking cameras, your heated seats. If you want ventilated seats, then you have to go up into the limited trim. The HVAC, all buttons, knobs, switches, intuitive, easy. Love that they've left all of that as is, and there aren't any weird haptic things going on. Very nice that they left that laid out well and sort of tilted toward the driver here. The gauge cluster here has the bigger of the 2 gauge clusters offered from Hyundai for the Kona. If you're in the N line or above, then you get the big 12.3 inch screen. And it's very simple. It's very Hyundai. It's got your tach, it's got your speed, it's got your traffic sign recognition, and it'll show you a little bit more information in the middle. You can cycle through a few different options for that center information. Laid out very well. I like to nerd out over which wheels are driving at any given moment, so that's the one that I leave it on. This little red line through here, I understand it, but it's a little bit too red. I wish that were a little bit more subtle. The wheel, leather wrap steering wheel, we got the red stitching because we're in the N line. Nicely laid out steering wheel. We got the dots across the middle that are sort of blocked out with a little silver piece, because in the EV versions, you usually have these 4 dots that light up green. So again, that sort of EV first mindset. We got the N on here, but I love the way that Hyundai does a steering wheel. I love the knobs and the switches that they put on here. They do a great job laying out a steering wheel, making it easy and user friendly. We got the paddle shifters as well, because we are in the N line. One of the most underrated features in a lot of cars, I can fit a full Nalgene in the door pocket. Glad to see that one works here as well. These are the sport seats because we are in the N line. These are Alcantara. If you want the H-Tex leatherette seats, then you got to go up into the limited trim. This is the first time that the Kona offers those H-Tex seats. But these Alcantara seats are pretty comfortable. I've got no issues with them. Power adjustable, 8-way power adjustable with lumbar support. And like I mentioned, heated. If you want the ventilation, you got to get the limited trim. One thing here that they've done with the seats is they've actually thinned them out. They haven't thinned out the cushioning. They've thinned out the actual seat itself, the high strength steel inside of the seat, so you get more room. So in addition to growing the car overall, the seats have also thinned out, so you get more space on top of the space you already gained from the car growing, which is great because the back seats actually get 38 inches of legroom, which is massive for the size of this car. 172-inch car is not typically going to get you 38 inches of legroom back there. Massive. Love to see that. Kids are fine back there. Plenty of space. I'm fine at 5'7" behind myself. Plenty of space. You got the center armrest with the cup holders. They've got their own vent. They've got 2 USB-Cs back there as well. We do have the sunroof. That is new for the Kona. The Kona has not had a sunroof in the past. And I have had some issues with this sunroof though, with the power on this thing. It's just, I don't know if it's the cold or what it is, but it keeps getting stuck. So not great. Hopefully that's just a fluke. but it's nice to see that they offer it. And it is only really in the front. The kids in the back don't really get a lot of sun back there, but that is sort of a typical thing. I just wish it would have been, you know, a bigger sunroof. No sunglasses holder or anything. Auto dimming mirror, but if you want the home link, then you got to go up into the limited trim. But generally speaking here, interior is laid out well. Everything is pretty accessible here. I'm looking forward to those over-the-air updates with this one, and I love that there's so much space in the back. Really, really well thought out interior, well done interior overall here with some decent features for the price point. All right, so I've been driving this around for the last week, and if you are expecting a Kona N, this is not that. The N line is very different from the N. It is very apparent the first time you get in and hit the gas pedal. So, you know, it doesn't have a limited slip differential. It does not have the same type of power. It doesn't have the same type of super quick transmission. The N line is definitely not N. Now, that being said, it is a step up from the SE and SEL in terms of performance, but really only because of the engine. And then from there, it's sort of basically an appearance package when it comes to this versus the limited. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the conclusion. For the driving experience here, the updates here for 2024, that you definitely notice them here. It rides pretty smoothly here for something at this price point, for something in this class, a subcompact crossover with these sort of shorter wheelbases and lifted a little bit. It's not, and we're on big 19s. It's not exactly a recipe for a smooth ride, but this thing actually does ride pretty softly here. They've also made the cabin a lot quieter in here. They've got acoustic tires, sound deadening added here. They made it much quieter. Even on the highway, you know, it does get a little bit louder on the highway, but for a $30,000 car, I've been in a few other $30,000 subcompact crossovers recently. It's typically not super quiet inside, and this one is on the quieter side for sure compared to the competition at this price point. And while I mentioned it's not the N in terms of power, it is still quick, you know, for this segment. This segment is not exactly a quick segment, you know, 190 horsepower, 195 pound-feet of torque, really about the same as last year. Again, as I mentioned, it's plenty quick for this segment. You're daily driving this, you're not taking it to the track. So really no problems with the power here. The transmission, they did switch from a 7-speed dual clutch to the new 8-speed automatic, and the 8-speed has been good for the most part. When you're in normal mode here, there's a snow, there's a normal, and there is a sport mode. You're in normal mode, it is going to sort of ease you a little bit more, and the transmission is going to be a little bit more towards comfort and efficiency than sportiness. And so there have been one or two times where I was in normal mode and I tried to move kind of quickly. I hit the gas a little bit harder. It waited a second to downshift. There was a little bit of a delay. And then plus with the turbo spool, you have to wait for a little bit of turbo lag. So it just sort of, there was a little bit of lag and then a big shove. It wasn't the most comfortable. It has happened a couple of times in normal mode. Now, if you switch into sport mode, the transmission will react a little bit quicker. And so you won't quite have the same issues, and you can really get off the line a lot quicker. The transmission will be a little bit more aggressive. Of course, your fuel economy is going to go down a little bit. The EPA estimate is 26 combined, 24 city and 29 highway here in the all-wheel drive version. I've been getting about 24 combined here, but again, I'm testing things out. I'm a little bit more aggressive with it than you might be, but if you have a lead foot, then you'll probably get closer to 23, 24 here. One thing that I really like here is the safety features that are standard and the driver's assist features that are standard. Last couple of videos I've said blind spot monitoring hasn't been standard on the Trailblazer. On the Impreza, it was not standard. You had to go up into the upper trim levels. Here, the SE, the SEL, the N-Line Limited, it doesn't matter what trim you get, You get the blind spot monitoring, the rear cross traffic, you get the pedestrian, you get the lane keep. That's the one where if you're starting to get out of your lane, it will sort of shove you back into your lane. If you don't like that, don't worry, you can turn it off, but it hasn't been super aggressive. So it's nice to see those safety features standard. Now when you get the nav, so that means you're either in the SEL with the convenience or you're in the N line or the limited. Then you also get the smart cruise with the nav based system where it does like the curve control, which means it'll slow you down in the curves. It slows you down a little bit too much in the curves. But otherwise, the adaptive cruise does work really well, or the radar cruise system does work really well. The N-Line and the Limited also get you the lane tracing or the highway drive assist, which is the one that keeps you in the center of your lane. And I've said this before, Hyundai, Kia, they do this system really well. And while it doesn't seem like a big deal to not have to make these little adjustments to stay in your lane, honestly, it really does help a lot. It is a very nice feature to have. Now, there's no level 2 in some of the other cars from Hyundai and Kia. You can get the level 2 system with the machine learning where it'll sort of learn your habits. It does not do that. This one, it is just the standard lane tracing highway drive assist where it does just the adaptive cruise and keeping you in your lane, or the radar cruise and keeping you in your lane. And like I said, the system works very well. Visibility all around is really pretty good here. You know, we do have that sort of flat back shape. We got good visibility out the sides, really no issues there. And like I mentioned, the blind spot monitoring does work well. The one thing here that's different from last generation with the blind spot monitoring and different from a lot of the other Hyundai vehicles is I've noticed that in the other vehicles I've been in, when someone is in your blind spot and you hit your turn signal, the music will lower and then you'll get the beep that somebody is in your blind spot. In this car, the music doesn't lower, so it could be, if you're listening to music fairly loud, that you don't actually hear the beep. So I'm not really sure why they changed that. I don't know if people complained that it was annoying that the music would go down when they hit their turn signal, but I think that that was a better system where it actually lowered the music when somebody was in your blind spot. But you still do get the indicator over there. You still do get a beep. It's just not quite as in your face. Now those drive modes that I mentioned, so down here we have a drive mode switch here where you can switch between the different drive modes. There's also an all-wheel drive lock that'll work at lower speeds where it'll just keep you in all-wheel drive mode. But as you cycle through the different drive modes here, it will change your all-wheel drive system if you get one that has the H-Track all-wheel drive here. If you're in normal mode, then it will default to 100% to the front wheels and kind of get the back wheels involved as needed. That's going to give you better efficiency. If you're in sport mode or snow mode, it'll go anywhere between 80-20 front to back and 50-50 split front to back. Like I mentioned in the interior, I do like to sort of nerd out over what the different wheels are doing. I like that you can look right here in the gauge cluster and see which wheels are engaged and how much power. And when you put it in sport mode and you're from a stop and you pound on the gas, it's cool to see like the whole thing kind of light up, so you can see that those back wheels really are involved. And then when you're on the highway, most of the time it's basically just your front wheels, just for efficiency. You don't really need your back wheels in that situation. You know, I also mentioned in the interior that this whole center section is very open. I like that it's very open, but it does need some sort of rubberized material on the bottom, because I put my garage door opener there. Since we don't have the home link on this one, you got to be in the limited trim. I put my sunglasses down here because we don't have a sunglasses holder, unfortunately. Stuff is just kind of sliding around down here, so there's a lot of space for stuff. It's a versatile space, but it does kind of slide all over because there's no kind of rubberized material or anything. And that's really my only complaint with the driving experience here. So at the end of the day here, you know, this vehicle has been updated in a lot of great ways. The magic that they've done with the interior space really is awesome. You know, because it is a small vehicle overall. It is truly a small vehicle. 171 to 172 inches overall is very small and very short, but the space inside is huge, including the cargo space, including the back seat space. So if you got kids back there, you got people back there a lot, it really is nice. And they've got their own vents, they've got their own USBs, and the bigger engine here is definitely helpful with the daily drive if you're somebody that has a little bit more of a lead foot, or if you're somebody coming from something with a little bit more power. So it's got that over something like an HRV, which only comes with the naturally aspirated engine. I will say lines get a little bit blurry when you're trying to decide between this and the limited trim. Limited trim is about $1,000 more. You get the full 360 camera, you get the blind spot cameras here where you hit your turn signal, it'll show you what's going on in your blind spot, and you get the cooled seats. You know, you get all these extra features and you still get the same engine. You just don't get the appearance package. You don't get these seats. I didn't mention these seats are very comfortable. These Alcantara seats, I really like these a lot actually. If you get the N-Line, it's more of an appearance package. If you get the limited, you get a lot more features. So that's really sort of the decision there between those two. So I'd probably lean towards the limited, even though I do like the look of this a little bit better and I do like the seats a little bit. So it'd be nice if you could sort of get those extra features on the N-Line, but unfortunately you cannot. So I'd probably lean limited personally for that extra $1,000. So that's all I got for this week. Thanks as always for watching. Make sure to hit all the YouTube buttons down below. Let me know if you have any questions, anything that I missed on this car, or just have any questions about this compared to something else. Let me know down below. And thanks again for watching. Hopefully I will see you next time.